Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. I hope that you had a fantastic weekend. I hope everybody's well. Hope you're all doing good. Long time no see, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, welcome back. Mondays are back again. We missed last Monday, but we're back now. So yeah, I hope everybody's well. Let's have a look in the chat, see what you've all been up to. Let me know in the chat what you're doing tonight. Are you hobbying? Are you just sitting chilling? Do you have a nice tasty beverage? Are you at work? Are you travelling? Are you in the car just listening? What are you up to? If you're in the car listening, please don't type what you're up to. I'll just take it as read that you're okay. Let me know what you've been up to at the weekend. What you've been painting? What have you been playing? What have you been buying? Have you been doing a little bit of Christmas shopping for yourself? Treating yourself to some hobby stuff? Have you been letting your significant others know what kind of hobby treats to put on the list this year? Let me know what you're all up to. So, Marcus was in nice and early. Good afternoon to you, Marcus. I hope you're doing well. Good evening, Mark Wright, as well. Nice to see you, buddy. Ortega, hello in the rerun, as we always say. Nice to see you, mate. Tolmort, happy Monday to you as well. Scott Latham, good evening to you, mate. How are you doing? Peter Cooman, good evening, sir, as well. We've also got Andrew Fairbanks. He says, in before Andy tells us to stop buying more models. I will promise you tonight that... so the topic, for those that don't know, is about 5 things to stop doing in your hobby right now. I will promise you that one of them is not stop buying models. I promise you that. I'm not going to tell you to stop buying models. I'm not encouraging you to buy them. I'm not telling you to stop buying them. I think these are going to be a bit more interesting than you might initially think. And I kind of hummed and hawed about how to do this because there's 2 sides to it. I could have said 5 things to start doing, which sounds much more positive, but by framing it as in things you should stop doing, negativity sells, doesn't it, on YouTube? People are more likely to click a video that says stop doing something than they are to click a video that says start doing something. Start doing something sounds like a lot of effort. Stop doing something makes you think, actually, I'm going to get a bit of time back here. So yeah, the magic of psychology. That's why I'm doing stop. That's why I'm telling you stuff to stop doing. But one of them, I promise you, Andrew Fairbanks, is not stop buying models. Blizzard's hellos to you, mate. How you doing, fella? Christian, good evening, sir. Christian, I saw this evening, about 5 minutes before we came on the stream, that I had completely missed your birthday. For some reason, Facebook did not flag it up to me like they normally do, and I completely skipped it. So 1,000 apologies, mate. I want to give you a very happy belated birthday, a very public one to everybody. Happy birthday, mate, for the other day. And yeah, I'll have to catch you on a birthday gift now. But yeah, I apologise for missing it, mate. I'm not somebody that has them all in my diary and stuff like that. And normally I rely on the Facebook nudge thing coming up, and it didn't happen. So happy birthday, mate. Scott Latham, good evening to you, mate. How you doing? John Estel, he says, my number one thing to stop will be washing my brush in my drink. That is also a very, very wise thing. It's also not one of the things on the list. So yeah, there you go. Joachim, good evening, mate. He said he's been up since 4 o'clock this morning. His brain couldn't relax due to work. You're just excited for Christmas, mate, isn't it? The big fella with the white beard's coming in. You're getting a little bit excited. VJ, good morning, mate. How are you doing? I saw you've been super, super busy with work. Seems like the evening economy is starting to pick up again where you are. So it's nice to see that you're getting a bit of work in, mate. Good stuff. Ed, how are you doing? Nice to see you as well. Nigel Jones, good evening. This is where I've got to backtrack because it jumped ahead now and I'm trying to look to see where I was up to. Frantic, hello to you as well. Cardos, nice to see you in as well. Peter Stockdale, good evening. Busy saying start. I did just start. Now I'm going to stop. Are you going to stop starting or are you going to start stopping? Which one is it? ER910, hello to you as well. Tasty Brain Drain, good evening. Cardos is cooking dinner, looking at the sad minis that need to be painted. They're not sad minis, mate. They're ready. They're ready for their time in the sun. That's what it is. Tasty Brain Drain says, so glad that you're back, Andy. I will tell you why I didn't stream last Monday. I didn't stream because I honestly could not think of anything to talk about. I'll probably talk a bit later about kind of like creativity and kind of sort of getting that spark of enthusiasm from places and where the live stream ideas come from and all that kind of stuff. We might chat about it later tonight. But I honestly, I was kind of almost like beating myself up about the fact that I just couldn't think of anything interesting to talk about, and I just thought, you know what it is, I could come on here and I could kind of sit and ramble, but nobody really wants to kind of listen to me ramble when I literally didn't. I literally, there's nothing in the news to talk about from a gaming perspective. It's getting to the end of the year. Companies are not releasing new stuff. They're all basically having their Christmas cut off now. What's the point in releasing something that they can't deliver in time? All that kind of stuff. So it's a bit of a quiet time in the industry. And last week, I just could not. I was just at a very a kind of like a, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like a creative cul-de-sac. I just could not think of anything. So I thought, I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to have a night off, and that's what it was, mate. So yeah, nothing wrong with me. I'm absolutely fine. I literally could not think of anything to talk about. John Ashley Smith, good evening to you. Rob Zunk, how are you doing, mate? Nice to see you in. Tasty Brain Drain's at work as usual. Ed says he has Storm up tonight, hoping to get it done before the end of the stream. Well, fingers crossed, mate. You'll have to let me know if you manage it. Wayne Haywood, good evening to you. He's doing a bit of Christmas gift wrapping. Are you doing all the little fancy folds and bows and stuff, mate? Or are you just taping around the box? Hendrik says, stop chatting in YouTube channel and start painting. No, that's a bad thing. I make my living from people like you coming here, sitting, chatting to me. I need you to keep doing that. I need you to start chatting while you're painting. You need one hand for painting and one hand for typing. That's what you do it. AR910's building these beast snagger boys after work. Deep Red, hello to you, mate. Hailing well met, son. John saying he's cooking dinner soon. Sports night tonight for my daughter. Gotta eat early. Sports night? What sport, mate? What sport you playing? Or are you watching sport? I don't know. Tim Albers, good evening, mate. He says, did we stop doing hobby yet? No, never stop doing hobby. Never stop hobby. 10 sketches, no time for hobbying. Got my booster and my arms gotten heavy. My wife got her booster last week and she said it was quite sore. He says, feeling fine, no one picking out his Christmas presents off my fiancée. She just told me to pick stuff. I've had that conversation with my wife as well this year. I am getting hobby stuff this year for Christmas because I have said, like when she said this year, like literally, like is there anything you want? Like I'm a bit dry on ideas this year. Is there anything you want? And I said yes there is, and I gave her a list of the things to get. Blizzard says he's got Cyborg Readball team, or Dreadball. I think it was a Readball team, Dreadball team in the post for his Dead Zone 3 Mason Labs. Nice one. Christian said he spent the weekend painting miniatures and making gaming boards. How's that getting on, mate? I remember for your D&D one-shot stuff I saw you doing the kind of like the snow thing, wasn't it? Speed Demon Painting, good evening to you. Hello, Derek Hodge as well. Christian saying, no worries. It's unforgivable, mate. I need to start putting reminders in my diaries for the important ones. I apologise. John says, I need to stop checking out his new releases. Mike Nicholson says, howdy from Colorado, watching and working. Well, howdy to you too, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Jason Finch says, I miss you. I miss you too, Jason Finch. How are you doing? Tony Howell, hello to you as well, mate. Camo says, good morning. Doug Schumann's in. Good afternoon to you. Peter Koeman's got his Frostgrave Demons on the go. Busey says, is it true there's going to be a Curse City reprint? No idea, mate. I think what it is, there's some rumours flying about because somewhere listed Cursed City book is coming back. But I think what it is, it's just the Cursed City paperback version coming out. Because they do this with all the Black Library stuff. They have a hardback version, and then however long, 6 months later, they have the softback version, the paperback version. And I think that's all it is. I think people are seeing Cursed City on lists, and it's just the paperback book coming out, I think. Hendrickson, he had a great Kings of War tournament in the Netherlands yesterday. It was great. Glad to see that. Nice to see some events happening as well. Yoakum saying, yeah, the printer was a little birthday gift. Yeah, he kept it quiet, Yoakum, didn't he? He didn't actually say anything about it either. Tony Boovleiden, good evening to you, mate. Jez is saying, glad you're okay, dude. I'm just trying to design a helmet for the last week of working on this job. Last week, mate. Wow, how does that feel? You get to come back home again. John says it's tough painting and keeping up with the chat. Tell me about it, mate. You want to try? I mean, it's hard enough when I'm sitting. I've done it before watching other people's streams when I'm sitting painting, and I either kind of completely zone out and just listen to it like a podcast, or if I start typing, I don't get any of the painting done. So I do sympathise. I apologise for that stuff. Tony said he can't paint at the moment. He's waiting for his cave to dry. Looking good at days too, mate, as well. Dave's mini menagerie, I should say. Good evening to you. He's just recorded a vid. Now to see if it's Ace or Pooh in the editor. Well, that's where the magic happens, isn't it? John John said he's got 3 sheets of 5/8 plywood to make some game boards. Nice one. And Ed saying the Cursed City source book for Soulbound, the AOS RPG is out soon. It might be that. Yeah, it possibly could be that as well, mate. Yeah. Peter saying 5 more days and I switch week to weekend shifts. More hobby time. Nice one. So that's me catching up with a chat. Only took me 10 minutes to get there, but we got there in the end. I know some people love it, some people hate it. I don't mind. It's nice to say hello to folks who take the time to come in here and chat. So if you are new here, if this is your first time chatting or joining the live stream, thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate you coming in. If you haven't said hello yet, please say hello in the chat. Always good to see the new folks that we've got in here. I'm on the water tonight. I just had a cup of coffee before I started this, and my throat's a bit is a bit dry from talking, so we're just on the water. Jess said he's been away 9 months. It's a melancholic thing. Looking forward to getting back, but love the gig. I think it's when I've been away with work, the longest I think I've ever been away is like been a couple of weeks or something like that. So I never really get that point where you build up friendships with people you're working with, or kind of, I mean, you make friends, but like not like 9 month long kind of sort of friendship things. And to be honest with you, I'm always kind of like ready to go home kind of thing. But yeah, I can imagine, mate. I can imagine you're ready to get home again. So yeah, as I said before, tonight's live stream is we're talking about 5 things that you should stop doing in your hobby, and it's more positive than it. I mean, I'm sure you folks kind of know me by now. Most of you do anyway. I tend to err on the positive side of things. I'm not really a negative person. I tend to be more kind of positive, and that's what I'm trying to do tonight. Like, I'm telling you to stop doing some stuff, but from a positive aspect. So yeah, don't be expecting things to be kind of all down and dour tonight. John says last week of school for his wife and daughter, then off for 2 weeks for Christmas. Yeah, my little boy, he's the same. He's got his last week at school this week. My wife's got her last week at work. Her last week at work. That's what I said, didn't I? She's off from Friday for over the Christmas as well. There's only going to be me. There's only going to be just me actually working over the Christmas. I think everybody else is going to have some time off. Chris Banks, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Tim Albers says, number one thing to stop doing, buy into every new hype. John saying, stop shaking your paints and stir them instead. No, that's not a positive vibe thing, mate. You should always shake your paints. Even just for the kind of like the cocktail moment of like you should actually do it with a little bit of dance. It puts a bit of spice in your life. If you're shaking your paints with a little bit of shoulder action, make you a happier person, I promise you. Camo says, I heard you can remove YouTube stats from specific videos. Not technically. What's happening is YouTube are trialing something at the moment in some regions, of which the UK is one of them, where they are removing dislikes. So you can still dislike my video, but it won't show up for other people to see how many dislikes I have. I can't remember the reason why they're doing it, but that's kind of what they're doing. So the stats are stats. I can still go into the background. I have something called YouTube Studio where I can go in and see all of the different kind of sort of data in the background. It's how I get to see whether the channel's growing, whether it's going backwards, which videos do well, which topics do well. So I can still go in and see all of that stuff, but it's just been hiding the dislikes, I think. Where we go? Peter says, stop listening to people telling you what to do with your hobby. I'm not telling you what to do with your hobby. I'm telling you what not to do with your hobby. Tim saying, stop drinking paint water. I must admit, I've never done that, and I think it's because I always have a proper like sort of paint pot as opposed to like a cup or a glass or something like that. And I don't have them that close to me. I think I tend to always have my drink on the left, even though I'm right-handed. I have my drink on the left, and I have my paint stuff on the right, my paint water. So I think that's why I've never done it. Start drinking beer. Yeah. Stop not drinking beer. That's what it's going to be. Camo says, on Miniature Minions video. I don't know. I've not seen it, mate. I've not seen it. Jess is saying, better if people give it a like. It is better if people give it a like. Storm of Steel Wargaming, good evening to you. Tonio Forband, hello as well. John saying, I only shake the washers and drop the bottles. Everything else I stir. Habit I picked up from ruining too many bottles of paint with screw top lids. I've got one of those vortex mixers, so I just kind of sort of I've got my hobby desk all laid out, so my paints are all in front of me. I pick them up, put them on top of the paint shaker. Gives them a little bit of a bit of a jiggle. Mixes them up quite nice. I've put some agitators in there as well. Gives it a nice kind of good mix. And then I kind of get my paint out. So yeah, I don't even get to do the dance. Christian there, just sharing the link for the Patreon. Thank you very much. If you're looking for something to treat yourself for Christmas, if your significant other says, is there anything you would like? I wouldn't mind getting you a stocking filler. A $2 gets you a month's access to the Patreon. You get to join our Discord server, our private Discord server for Patreons. You get to have a chat. You get to mix with the lovely folks that are already in there. And then obviously if you want to spend a little bit more, there's some other bits of bonuses as well. But yeah, $2, that's not a bad little kind of like stocking filler, is it? $2 a month, $24 for the year. I'm not sure that's not too bad. Peter said, I drink everything from the can, so no problem there. And Storm of Steel Wargames, I like the Rebel pilot helmet behind you. Yeah, luckily it actually is a proper helmet as well, so you can put it on. I'm not going to because I look like a right one, but yeah, that's what it is. So I think we've got, how are we doing numbers wise? We're doing all right. I think now is a good time as any to, let me press all the right buttons, to start our main chat for tonight. So I haven't done it in a while, but I am going to record this one tonight and chop it up, edit it up a little bit, and then do it as a kind of separate video as well, because I think it's, Peter saying he stores donuts in a helmet. I do store donuts in a helmet. I'm going to chop it up and do it as like kind of like a shortened version, because live streams don't always get that many views. I think this is a bit of a snappy topic to have as a separate video as well, so we'll do that as well. But so yeah, that's why kind of we've gone to this nice screen as opposed to this is the live stream screen. This is the one that I'll use when I'm kind of recording video and stuff. So let's just move out of the way. Right, so yeah, if you do want to ask any questions, if there's any points that I make while we're talking, just at BlackJack Legacy, when you're typing into the comment section, into the chat, it'll highlight it for me and I can go back and reference it, because I've got a few notes that I've kind of put up on my screen. I'll be kind of hiding them, so I won't see them as we go. I'll just kind of flow through it and then we can chat about it afterwards. So tonight I'm going to be telling you 5 things that I want you to stop doing in your hobby now. And as I say, I'm coming at this from a positive side of things. When I say I want you to stop doing them, of course you do what you want in your hobby, but these are things that I think will enrich your hobby and will kind of just make life that little bit happier. So the first thing I suggest that you stop doing is stop comparing yourself to others. Now what I mean by this is maybe don't compare your painting to others. Like, there's nothing wrong with like looking at what other people are doing to get inspiration from it, to get some tips or ideas, maybe asking for solutions or to some problems that you have. You know, you want to try and learn how to do something a bit different, but never kind of beat yourself up for not being as good as them. Like, don't compare yourself to them and then say, oh, I'll never be that good, you know, that kind of thing. Like, you don't have to be that good. You know, like you will get better if you practice more, but don't kind of beat yourself up for where you are right now. And it also kind of goes the other way as well. Like, it's kind of fair to mention is that you shouldn't criticize other people who you might consider to not be as good as you, or not be like. I've seen comments like kind of like, oh my god, like how can you even share that kind of thing? Like, you've no idea where that person is in their kind of sort of miniature painting journey. You've no idea what kind of sort of restrictions they have, or kind of, you know, like what limitations they have when it comes to painting miniatures. So like, I think the golden rule kind of don't be a dick, but the golden rule of like, you know, if you really don't have anything positive or kind of sort of encouraging to say, then just kind of scroll on by really and just kind of ignore it really. Also, don't compare what you spend or what you don't spend to others as well. So some folks will kind of have more money to spend than you do. Some folks will have less money to spend than you do. But don't really kind of concern yourself with what other people spend. There's a lot of talk online about how much things cost and whether something's value or not, and whether it's a good value, whether it's bad value. And at the end of the day, value is different to kind of everybody. There are some people that will go out and buy a brand new army. They'll buy all the miniatures kind of for a 2,000 point 40k army, and then they'll do nothing with it, and they'll just basically move on and buy another one. And you know what? that's their money, that's their hobby. They can do what they want. And then there's other people who will be quite frugal with their money, and they'll tell you that you're absolutely stupid for buying Games Workshop products, or why are you buying those Marvel minis? They're so overpriced for how many you get in a box. That's absolutely fine as well. Just kind of ignore them people, let them get on with it. Don't concern yourself with what other people do or don't spend. Just kind of as long as you can afford it and it's bringing you some happiness, you buy what you want for your hobby. And also don't compare kind of how many games you win to however many games other people play and win. So for example, if you're more of a kind of not necessarily a competitive gamer, but if you're a person that a big chunk of your hobby is the gaming side of things rather than maybe the painting, for example, don't kind of compare yourself to everybody else. Some folks have got those kind of brains that just get a game. They can look at a rule set, they can look at a stat card and instantly understand how that kind of character plays, or how they almost see the Matrix, they see all the numbers come together and it all kind of makes perfect sense. I'm not one of those people, and I know I'll never be one of those people. But just don't sweat it. Don't get kind of too hung up on it. If you want to get better at a game, you're going to have to put the time in, you're going to have to put the effort in, you're going to have to play more games, you're going to have to practice. And getting good at a game is going to take time. So don't kind of beat yourself up if you don't have time to do that. Some people are kind of they're at university, they're at college, they live at home with their parents, they have a lot less responsibilities in life, and they've got a lot of spare time on their hands, and they just play that one game and they get really good at it. I'm not one of them people. I've got family, I've got responsibilities, I've got the job to do. I like to play lots of different games. I don't have the time to get good at a game. And you don't necessarily need to get good at it. So don't beat yourself up if you're playing a game and kind of losing a lot. At the end of the day, as long as you're having fun playing with your friends, that's kind of the point of it. So yeah, don't beat yourself up about that one. So yeah, so that's the first one. Don't kind of stop comparing yourself on many different levels. The second one is stop choosing your hobby projects based upon what other folks play. Now, this is one that kind of comes up quite a lot, really. So, don't just choose to play what other people play, for example. I hear it a lot when people are talking about, new games, if I'm talking about a new game or something like that, and it's always about, I'm not getting that because no one else plays it. Now, I think there's two kinds of gamers when it comes to playing games. There's those that play quite regularly. They go to the club every week. They might get 2 or 3 games a weekend, those kind of folks. And then there's the other folks who basically don't play regularly. They might play kind of 4 or 5 times a year. They might play once in a blue moon. Their hobby is much more centered around the painting side, the collecting side, the building models and that kind of thing. But I think they still kind of beat themselves up about, well, I'm not playing that game because I don't know anybody else that plays it. And it's like, well, if you're only really playing something like 3 or 4 times a year, you don't really play it either, so don't really worry about it so much. You should choose what you like because you like it, not just because somebody else plays that game, kind of thing. And on that regard, don't play a game that you don't enjoy just because others do play it, kind of thing. So on the back of that last reason, don't suffer playing a game. Don't get yourself into a game and then really just not enjoy it, but think, oh well, if I don't play this, nobody else plays anything else. And don't do it just because of this kind of that sunken cost mentality. Play what you enjoy. It's your hobby. It's meant to be fun. And I know some people will say it's better to play a game I don't enjoy with people I like being with. And I kind of get that. And there is some there's some merit to that. But if you're not enjoying it, why do anything that you're not enjoying when it's meant to be for fun? It's not your job. It's not like you have to do it. All I'm saying is if you're not enjoying that game, don't kind of punish yourself with it. And again, along them similar lines, don't ignore a range of miniatures just because you think nobody else plays that game as well. Again, if you like the look of certain miniatures and you think, oh, well, I won't get them because they're for a game that I don't play and nobody plays that game kind of thing, kind of just think about would you enjoy painting it? Is it a model that you like? Would you like to paint it and just kind of put it on display in your hobby room or on your desk at work or something like that? Is it something that you would get a lot of enjoyment from? Could you proxy it in and play it in the game that you do play? I find doing this kind of job, I interact with a lot of people, and one of the common things I hear about is, I'm not interested in that game because nobody plays it, or I'm not interested in buying those minis because nobody plays it. And I think sometimes you have to look beyond that. What about what you want? What about what you enjoy? What about sort of, what are the things that inspire you, kind of thing? So yeah, just stop choosing your hobby project based upon what other folks play, is what I'm saying. The third point is stop getting caught up in FOMO, or fear of missing out, for those not aware of what FOMO is. So I hear a lot of people when it comes to kind of this fear of missing out thing is saying that they worry about not having a full set. Some people are kind of completionists and they feel the need to have everything. But thinking about it rationally, like from a kind of, like, you know, like completely like sort of detached from that, what are you really going to miss out on if you don't buy everything? If you don't get the full set, what are you really missing out on? Most stuff, even things that come out as kind of Kickstarter exclusives or kind of these Games Workshop boxes that maybe come out, most of that stuff ends up on eBay anyway. If you really want it, like, then buy it. By all means, buy it when it comes out. By all means. But most stuff kind of turn up on eBay at some point, or people sell them off when they do nothing with them. So you're never really missing out forever with like kind of like 95% of stuff. Kickstarters, for example, you know, like if a Kickstarter is pretty popular, most of them get reproduced, and if they don't, the world's not going to stop spinning, kind of thing. Is it just because you didn't pick up that particular one? Don't feel the need as well, based on the back of that, to have every expansion for a game that you'll know you'll probably never get round to playing that often anyway. I've done it before in the past. This is especially true when it comes to board games, but I think people do it as well when it comes to some kind of miniature ranges as well. Is that it comes along with that kind of that completionist mentality, if you like. But think about board games that you've played. Think of a board game, the last board game that you played that you really enjoyed. Have you ever really played a board game long enough, or enough times to get to the point where you think, I've completely exhausted this game now, I need to buy the expansions? Because I'll be honest, I tend to chop and change which board games I play. It tends to be whenever I play it with somebody, I'll play that game and we'll play it a couple of times and we'll play something else. And then the next time I'll play that will be with a completely new person who's never played that game before. And we go, oh, we'll play that game. I really enjoyed it. So you go back and you do that kind of training mission again. You do that tutorial mission again. And you play that and you play it a couple of times. And then guess what? You play something else. And then what's going to happen the next time you get that out? It's with a new set of people. Very rarely will you sit down and kind of play through some stuff all the way through it to then warrant picking up that expansion. So just think about that before you do it. I think we get caught up in that FOMO stuff of like, oh, everything's coming out. It especially happens when it comes to Kickstarters and stuff. I've got to have everything. If I don't get it now, I won't ever get it. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, you might not get it, but do you really need it? And also on that one as well is don't feel the need to buy the latest thing just because it's new. Just because it's the latest thing doesn't mean you have to have it. You know, like it might be that new army that comes out for a game that you play. It's not the army you collect, but it's a new army, and it's like, oh, it's something new. I have to have it. Or it might be a new kind of unit for an army that you don't collect, an army you don't play. But it's like, oh, but it's new. I'm getting caught up in the hype of it. Like, just kind of, by all means, get something because you want it, but never feel that kind of that pull, that FOMO to say, oh, you absolutely have to have that. I need that kind of thing. That's kind of you will. That's why we all end up with piles of grey plastic and stuff that never gets touched, and stuff that's still in stretch wrap, even worse. So yeah, so that's kind of like the third point. Really, all those stuff is kind of that. Stop getting caught up in the FOMO. It doesn't kind of do you any favors. It's an instant gratification thing that very, very quickly wears off, and a lot of people will get buyer's remorse from that stuff. The next one, the fourth one, is stop worrying about what others think when it comes to your hobby. So what I mean by this is don't be ashamed of your hobby. A lot of people are kind of a little bit worried about, like, you know, should I don't even really talk about it. I don't tell people what my hobby is. I know people who like sort of that don't even tell their friends. They don't tell their work friends what they do when it comes to their hobby. But don't be ashamed of it. I mean, we I'm sure a lot of people saw the Graham Norton thing flying around with oh god, these names escape me now. Superman, Witcher guy. I'm sure people saw that, and that kind of anything from gentle ribbon to actually sort of like taking the mick a bit. I think historically people have been a bit kind of embarrassed about what they do for a hobby when it comes to this kind of stuff. But you shouldn't be. Like, it's no worse and no different to any other hobby. You also shouldn't feel the need to justify why you like something when other people don't. Now, I think this is kind of more so now in this kind of digital age and the social media age and everything else. There instantly seems that whenever somebody says they like something, somebody else has to kind of wade in and say, well, I think it's rubbish, or I completely disagree with you. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. But what you can control and what you can stop doing is getting sucked into those online discussions, those online arguments. You can, like, if those folks are being negative, just ignore them. Just move away from it. You'll get so much kind of more enjoyment from your hobby if you spend time doing your hobby and don't get dragged into those negative conversations about why somebody else doesn't like what you like. So yeah, like, stop worrying about what others think. It doesn't really matter what some random person on the internet does or doesn't like about the stuff that you do. It's nice to kind of share in a hobby and share in interests. But when it turns to negativity, just kind of scroll on by. Just ignore it. You will get nothing but kind of like negative feelings from dealing with negative people when it comes to that kind of stuff. Now, the fifth thing, and stay tuned because I do have a bonus reason as well. The fifth thing is stop thinking that you need to get better all the time when it comes to your hobby. Don't feel that you have to be a better painter. You can choose to be, by all means. If painting is the most important part of the hobby for you and you want to improve your skills, by all means, put the time and effort into doing it. But you don't have to be. I think people kind of forget that a little bit. They get kind of things like tabletop standards thrown at them. They get things like speed painting is bad, batch painting's bad. You should always be blending. You shouldn't be dry brushing. Contrast paints are bad. Washes are bad. All those kind of things get thrown about all the time when it comes to painting. And at the end of the day, if you are painting because you enjoy the process, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is at the end of it. If you are painting because you just want to get something to a standard where you want to play with painted models, it doesn't really matter what the end product is in the grand scheme of things. And we must remember that this is a hobby and you don't have to be good at your hobby. You just have to enjoy it. It's like, I can play football, the same sport that Cristiano Ronaldo plays. I don't play like him. I'll never play like him, but we both play the same thing and we can both enjoy it. Like, you don't have to be great at something to enjoy it. Like, don't feel the need, I mentioned before, really, don't feel the need that you have to be better when it comes to actually physically playing the games. Not everybody can win a tournament. Not everybody kind of wins every game they play. If you're just having fun hanging out with your friends, like, that's the whole point of it. Having fun with other people surely is the point in playing the game, not having to win every single time. And also, don't feel like you need to know every kind of like infinite minutiae detail about the lore and the background to a game. Some people love the lore and backgrounds to games, and some people love to talk about how much they know about the lore and the background to games. But you don't need to. You don't need to know all of that stuff. Don't feel bad that you don't know kind of the entire kind of encyclopedic history of the Horus Heresy. Don't feel bad that you didn't read every Marvel comic book from 1965 about a certain storyline. Like, people do like to share their passion for kind of understanding that kind of stuff. But you don't need to feel bad about that stuff. So yeah, stop thinking that you need to get better all the time. It's your hobby. You're supposed to enjoy it. Getting better is just something that happens naturally as you put more time and effort into something, and it's almost a side effect of enjoying something and spending more time on it. And the bonus reason, it's a bit of a funny one. I wasn't really going to include it, but I've decided to as a bit of a bonus one. Is stop isolating yourself when it comes to your hobby. It's something I need to do more often, and I think the lockdown and the pandemic and all that kind of stuff has got a lot to kind of it's a lot of the reason why I think I feel like this personally. But don't get used to kind of like sitting alone behind your screen, just sitting sort of painting away on your own. don't forget that there's a big part of our hobby is about the social aspect. And if you just want to play games, you can play video games and you can sit on a computer when you can play them. But we choose not to most of the time. We choose to do this as our hobby. And don't forget that even if you're painting, you can do kind of like video painting with people and be chatting to them. If you enjoy playing games, get out into the stores, get out into hobby stores, get out into tournaments, get to kind of gaming events and actually go and meet people and go and chat about the hobby and go and play games with folks. It's a really social experience playing games, and there's a lot of people make friends for life through this kind of hobby. And I think over the last couple of years, certainly the last kind of 18 months, I think we've forgotten that actually some of the reason why we got into this, and we've kind of forgotten about, or certainly I have, we kind of forgot about the social aspect of it. So don't kind of get cooped up indoors. It's the winter, it's cold, it's miserable. We've got all the COVID stuff going in the background. Don't forget that this is a kind of a social hobby, and this is one of the reasons why we do it. So I'm sure you've probably got more reasons. I'm sure the chat here from the live stream's been piling them in as well. I'm going to come and catch up with those ones. But pop down in the comments to this video if you're watching this back. Pop down, tell me some things that you think that you should stop doing that will actually improve your hobby experience. Tell me some things that you think I'm completely wrong about. I would love to hear. So yeah, thanks for watching. So folks, that was my stop one. Let me scroll back in the chat now, and we'll see where we're up to. Where are we up to here? Cat Smith, good evening. How are you? She's painting her Marvel minis. Only been hobbying a year, and I can see how much I'm improving just by doing it. That's exactly it. It happens by sheer osmosis of doing it more often. Fiji saying, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. There's an element of that, mate, isn't there? And it's like definitely a case of I don't understand it, right? And maybe I'm kind of missing something because I'm not the kind of person that just wades in online and kind of sort of shits all over people for like painting something that I think I might not. I mean, everybody has a standard. Do you know what I mean? And I might say that's not very good, right? In my head, right? I'm never going to come out and tell this to somebody, but I might think, well, I don't actually think that's very good. But what I don't know about that person is I don't know how old they are. I don't know what kind of sort of restrictions they have. They might only have 2 pots of paint, and they might be mixing everything from them 2 pots. They might only have an old brush. They might be sitting with sitting on the floor. They might not have a desk to sit and paint at. They might have some kind of disability, and maybe kind of I've got bad eyesight or something like that. I don't know anything about that person, and if they're happy with it, and if they're proud enough to kind of share it online and show everybody what they've done, like they obviously are happy with it enough to want to put it out there and show people. Who the hell am I to tell them otherwise? And I think people kind of forget that, and some people just feel the need to wade in and just have an opinion. It's like my opinion's kind of the truth, if you like. I've never understood that. John says, the less I look at stuff on Instagram, the greater the motivation. I think it depends. I mean, I never look at stuff personally to compare myself to, which is, I guess, what we're talking about here at the start of the chat. I never do it to compare how I've done versus how they've done. But I might look at something and think, oh, that's a really good idea. I can learn something from that. Or, oh, I really like that. That's inspired me to do something in that vein or in that game system, for instance. So I will look at other people's stuff to be inspired, but I'll never kind of compare what I do. Am I a great painter? Not at all. Am I a terrible painter? No, I think my stuff's all right. But I'm only painting to kind of please me at the end of the day. And I think if more people could move away from kind of judging themselves against everybody else. Because what you don't see is when you look online, you don't see all of those paint schemes that are not as good as yours. Because either one, people just don't share them because they're just starting out and they're gradually getting better and they're trying to kind of learn the craft themselves as well. So you can't compare yourself to that stuff. And a lot of stuff shared online is by people who are very, very good at it. So it's going to be kind of unevenly balanced towards really good paint jobs online. So you're instantly going to feel inferior because what you're not seeing is the wide sort of breadth of what people are doing. You're seeing that kind of the high end of stuff that people are like really want to show off and show what they're doing kind of thing. Tonio says, I started an Instagram account for my minis, my wife's idea, and I'm far from Golden Demon. It doesn't matter, mate. It's a perfect way to record stuff over time, and you can tell yourself whether you're kind of like whether you think you're getting better. Like I'm looking at Marvel minis that I've been painting over the last 6 months, and the stuff I did from the core box versus the stuff I'm doing now is almost kind of, I can see an improvement in 6 months just by sitting, focusing, doing that kind of stuff. Chessie Kennedy, hello, says, I don't understand the purchase everything gang. Why have 3 boxes all the same and unopened? I think it's a case of some people feel the need to kind of buy a full army in advance and then build it and paint it. The problem is majority of people who do that tend not to get them built and painted. So I don't understand buying stuff that you have no intention of ever doing anything with. That's kind of that. But I would never kind of tell somebody not to do it. That's their money, they can spend it on what they want. And that was kind of my point about, like, don't concern yourself about when it comes to, like, sort of what other people spend or what other people don't spend. That's up to them. Like, and don't let them tell you kind of the same otherwise either. Dave saying, I'm glad my budget slows me down. I'm quickly running out of space, so I'd be in real danger if I had lots of cash to splash. Yeah, I think some people just get carried away, and I think it's a case of that kind of FOMO thing. I think they like the idea of I think some people like the idea of buying the new thing so they can talk online about buying the new thing and feel part of the gang and stuff. And I think that's it's not a toxic type thing, but it's a dangerous thing. The feeling of you're only part of the community when you're buying the latest stuff. And I never ever want people in kind of in our community to feel like that. Like if you don't buy anything, you're still a hobbyist. If you're interested in the hobby, you're a hobbyist. You don't have to be buying stuff all the time. You don't have to be painting kind of a new model every 2 days. You just have to have an interest in it. That's enough to feel kind of part of the community. John says it must be the better to have it and not need it than have it and than not have it and need it. Maybe, but I guess it depends on how much money you've got, doesn't it, in that respect? Tony's saying, I'm a free spirit when hobby and I just paint a hobby what I fancy and where my heart takes me. That's the best way to do it, buddy. It's the best way to do it. Tony says, if you're the only one to play a game, enlist your kids. It might depend if you've got kids. It might depend if kids are old enough. But it's one of those things where it's a case of, I hear so often, and it's what reminded me was somebody commented in our Facebook group about AOS or Kings of War. And it was like which one would people recommend? And my comment was kind of like, well, they're completely different games, but I'm biased. I'm not a huge fan of AOS. I really like Kings of War, so I'm obviously biased. But they're completely different games. Like, don't really compare them. But there was a few comments about, well, I only ever play AOS. I wouldn't touch Kings of War because nobody around here plays it, kind of thing. And then I looked at some of the comments, and then I looked at some of the people who were making those comments, and I was thinking, I know that you probably play about like 4 games a year max. You might collect the armies, you might love painting them. It's absolutely fine. But to say I don't play this because nobody plays it, and then you never play the game that you say that you play, it kind of defeats the object of putting somebody off. Because if somebody wants to collect something because they like the look of the miniatures, doesn't really matter whether they play it or not. And I think people get hung up and they think building miniatures, painting miniatures and playing the game and reading about the lore and background is all the same hobby. And it's not. They're all different parts of the kind of the wider hobby, if you like. So if you're just a painter, it doesn't matter what game that system's for. Just paint what you like. If you only really like playing the games, then play the games that you want to play and find the people that play the game you want to play. I find so many people kind of just get hung up in like, well, I'm only playing this because that's what my local store plays. Or I'm only playing this because I think I can get a game of that when I'm moving around the country and then like they don't leave their home for like 6 months. I just find some strange reasoning behind why some people do that kind of stuff. Jesse says, I tried so hard to like AOS and 40k, but I just couldn't. That was an expensive lesson. I've absolutely been there myself, buddy, as well. I have. Storm of Steel War Game says you can always play solo. You can play solo, mate. Absolutely. Tabletop Ramble, good evening. Don't have to apologise for being late. Not a problem. Saint Seablade, is that right? Says, all very good points. Thank you very much. Tom's Ed there is saying, I get the whole just buy what you like thing, but my main hobby is playing games. Painting and modelling are a step to get there. Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. And when I say the buy what you like thing, I still say that to you. Like when it comes to playing the games, mate, you still just buy what you like. Like if playing the game is what you want to do, then buy the things for the game you want to play. It's no different. John says, my brother-in-law and I play AOS about once or twice a year with armies I have built and painted because it takes such a lot of effort to get a game going. We play Gaslands pretty much every weekend. It's amazing. There's a lot of games like that which are just a lot of effort. And I think it's kind of almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, because what happens is these games, and I'm not suggesting AOS is one of them, but there are games that basically just take a lot of effort to get to the table. They're a lot of effort to learn the rules. When you're playing them, it feels like a real slog because you're looking through rule books, trying to reference stuff and trying to work out how the rules work. And what happens is you just never end up playing them enough to get sort of like to get competent with the rules. It's a similar thing when I was talking about board games, about how people don't play board games often enough to kind of to exhaust them to the point where they need expansions, really. And it's because what happens is 9 times out of 10 you'll play that game for the first time in 6 months, or you'll play it with new people and you're teaching them for the first time. So you just end up keep going back to those kind of intro missions and stuff like that. The amount of games I've played that I've never, like, I've played the first 1 or 2 scenarios and never ever got any further is unbelievable. Jesse says Cards Against Humanity. Peter says, yes, I have Dungeons and Dragons adventure system. Still feel like I don't have enough, and I have absolutely everything. That's different. Years ago, we played out Axis and Allies. There are, and I'm not suggesting every game that is, and there are games that I have expansions for because I've played them. So, for example, me and my wife really enjoyed playing Pandemic Legacy. So we played Pandemic Legacy Season 1. We played the whole thing. We finished it. We bought Pandemic Legacy Season 2 and we play through that. So there are games where you will play enough games to exhaust them. But that's the point to me where you go, right, I'll buy the expansion now. I get that. There are games that you will do that. But the amount of people that buy all of the expansions for a game that they don't play very often, that's the one I'm kind of making the point about. Tim Albert says Kickstarters have turned into pure money drain, sucking funds and happiness. Might want that thing in the moment, but when it arrives, mate, I completely agree, mate. There's that feeling of I need to get it all now because I won't get it again. So people then spend over probably what they wanted to spend because there's this fear of missing out. There's this fear of I won't be able to have this in the future. And then in 18 months' time, when it eventually delivers, and you kind of and the novelty's worn off because you're all excited for something else that you're spending money on now, and you never get it to the table, and you don't play the expansions, so all that stuff that you overspent on that you'll never ever get to just goes in a box, goes on a shelf, and hardly ever gets played. And I'm sure I'm not the only person that's done this. I'm looking here at Batman Gotham City Chronicles. Absolutely love Batman stuff. Couldn't wait to play it. Played it about 4 times. And every time I've played it, I've played that kind of intro mission because I've played with somebody different. I will never get through it. Now, thankfully, I didn't go kind of balls deep and buy all the expansions and stuff. I did buy some, but I didn't buy them all. But yeah, it's just dead money. Dead money. Christian sharing the link there for the BlackJack Legacy t-shirts and hoodies store. Thank you very much, mate. Stop worrying and start loving the bomb. You're not wrong, mate. George says, how many times have I played Space Hulk mission, 1st, 2nd, 3rd edition, and still haven't played through Gene Stealer and Deathwing? There you go. Henry Cavill was the name I was thinking of, and I couldn't. Superman guy, Witcher guy, that was it. Jess says, I'm a proud nerd. Everybody's nerdy. Many are nerdy about football. Why is it any different? I completely agree, mate. I think things are a bit different now. Being a bit of a geek is now almost sort of a badge of honour these days now. But certainly when I first started, it wasn't the kind of thing I really told work friends about. I didn't tell any of my work friends that I kind of I did YouTube kind of stuff for a hobby in the background. So when I left work and started doing this full time, it wasn't something I even really talked about then. But I've learned over time, like it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's not something that you should hide away. You know, like some people enjoy knitting, some people enjoy fishing, some people enjoy photography, some people go and play golf for the weekend. Why is that any different to what we do? 10 Sketch says, I tell no one that I play games. I just don't. If my fiance tells people, I end up embarrassed. I'm perfectly happy with people not knowing. It's my own thing. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that either, mate. You're totally entitled to tell or not tell whoever you want. My point being is that kind of like, don't worry what other people think. It's okay not to tell them, but then don't get embarrassed about it, really. I mean, like, if it... I think sometimes folks feel embarrassed about it just because it's sharing information that they don't want to share, as opposed to being embarrassed about what they do. And I think that's probably a bit different. Dirk says, don't tell me to stop doing stuff. Good evening, Dirk. Jess says, it's a thing that loads are nerdy about. They'll tell you teams from the 60s, that's pure sporty grognard. Honestly, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like if you think the 40k community kind of thing, when they start talking about law and start talking about kind of nerdy stuff from books of old Rogue Trader and all this kind of stuff and Horus Heresy books, start talking to people about football, about kind of stats from the 1966 World Cup, and yeah, but what about before the Premier League came along and certain players and all that? Like every hobby, every interest has got those kind of extreme fans, if you like. Embrace the nerdiness, exactly. Actually, hello says, totally agree. I was drawn to this hobby because a friend from work introduced me to it, and the hobby means so much to me now. That's what I mean about kind of like, don't worry about other people think. You might surprise a few people by dragging them in and having new friends to play the hobby with. So yeah, exactly. Tony says, definitely, this caused me to stop painting for 15 years as I stopped enjoying it, as I was putting myself under way too much pressure. Now I just do stuff and really enjoy it. I think a lot of people put themselves under pressure. They put themselves under pressure to finish things. They put themselves under pressure to live up to other people's expectations. And it's not just a hobby thing. I think it's a life thing as well. But yeah, honestly, I mean, Kath's just saying there, imagine a world where people do what they enjoy just cause. It's something I learned to do over the last few years. I mean, I kind of like... I wouldn't say I struggled with mental health, but I went through a bit of a kind of bad patch where I just wasn't really very happy about stuff and things. And what came out of that was basically I kind of learned to not really give a toss about what other people think of me, or kind of not really give a toss about other people in the nicest possible sense. Of course I care about people, and of course I care about my family and my friends and stuff. But at the end of the day, control what you can control. Don't, like, nobody is sitting at home now thinking about me saying, I bet his painting's not as good as mine. I am like maybe they are, I don't know. But it's not, it doesn't affect my life. Somebody else can sit online, they can put horrible words into YouTube and tell me what a horrible person I am and how much they hate my content. But at the end of the day, they're out there. They're not really, They don't have an effect on me. I can still get up every day and make another video and paint another model and play another game. They don't really affect me. And you just need to block out those people. You need to surround yourself with people that you get positive vibes from, people that give you kind of encouragement. Surround yourself with them people. The knobs that basically make you feel bad about what you do, just push them out. You don't need to have them around you. Where was this one? Where was this one? It's jumped down, that's why I've lost it. I know the comment I'm looking for, because it was just after Tony's comment. Here we are, Henry Cavill. That's where we were. We're back down there now. That was it. Storm of Steel saying, if it ain't fun, stop doing it. I'm always surprised by the amount of people who seem to complain about their hobby, seem to complain about other people in their hobby, seem to complain about they don't enjoy the games, they don't enjoy the rules, they think the models are shit, they think this paint is rubbish, they think... The amount of people that complain about stuff and never seem to actually be enjoying their hobby always baffles me, and it always makes me think, well, why are you doing it? If it's not fun, if you're not enjoying it, if everything's horrible, if everything's terrible, if you're sick of kind of like, you know, all of this stuff that's going on, why do you keep doing it? I never understand that. John says, I'm shameless about this hobby. Couldn't give a damn about what other clod thinks. If you hassle me about it, it says more about you than me. Yeah, I mean, I'm not somebody that necessarily kind of goes and I'm not like a sort of an evangelist. I'm not out there on the street preaching the hobby and come and read the good rule book kind of thing. But if somebody kind of asks me about it, I'm quite happy to talk about it. If somebody asks me what I do, I'll tell them what I do for a living. If somebody asks me what my hobby is, I'll tell them what I do. But I'm certainly not kind of like ashamed of it anymore. I used to be, I'll be honest. It's something where I kind of thought it was super nerdy and it wasn't something I necessarily wanted to share. But kind of, like I say, I kind of learned to get to grips with that kind of stuff. It's in here's one, stop playing with your dice. Thomas says, I tell everyone about my hobby in the hope I might meet someone to play with. You never know, mate, do you? You never know. Johnson, good monologue with excellent advice. Thank you very much, mate. I'll kind of chop it up a little bit. I'll edit it. I tend to do a little bit of research on this stuff. I write some notes, but a lot of it just kind of comes like off the top of my head while I'm chatting. So you get the full unfiltered version. I'll probably edit it down a little bit for a kind of an extra video. Storm and Steel Wargaming says, it's better to lose well than win badly. Enjoy the game and the social aspect, the journey, not the arrival. Yeah, it's a funny thing because I think some people think that, you know, the only reason to play is to win, and I think they kind of forget that bit, is that actually the reason to play is to have fun, and winning might be one of the ways you have fun, but I'd rather lose every game and enjoy every game than win every game and never have a fun experience. I know which one would stop me playing faster. George says, on the other hand, the paranoia of COVID got me solo gaming a bit and enjoying it, not as much with mates, mind. Yeah, and I get that, mate. I mean, everybody feels differently about the way the world is at the moment, and I obviously don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But we mustn't forget that, like, you know, this is a social thing that we do. Like, even if that means sitting at home and jumping on a video call or jumping on a phone call and talking to friends about it as well, like, don't isolate yourself from people. That's the point I'm kind of making. I've done it almost through. I went through that kind of period of I ended my job, I started working on my own, I'm working at home, the world goes into lockdown. Not only do I not get to go out and see people, there's nobody to see anywhere because I don't work with anybody, I work on my own, and I kind of ended up just getting myself into this kind of situation where actually it became uncomfortable to go out and kind of like meet with people and play games and trying to get back into that kind of cycle of things. And I don't know how it happened. I'm not like an antisocial person. I wouldn't say I was kind of an introvert. I enjoy spending time with people, but I think just kind of over a period of time, I just got so used to not going out. And it's a really weird situation. I never thought I'd see myself in that kind of place. And I know other people have done the same thing. So yeah, that was kind of like my bit of bonus raising, really, was just like don't forget actually that don't isolate yourself. Do you know what I mean? Scott saying, was called a nerd last week at work. I had printed off the updated Marvel rules and new cards and was laminating and cutting out the cards. Just as well I'm their manager. Screw them, mate, that's what I say. John says, playing solo is kind of a drag. Hard to get the drop on yourself. I know what you mean, mate. I'm not a huge fan personally of playing solo games. I will do if it's something I'm kind of trying to teach myself the rules or something like that, or if it's intentionally a solo game or a co-op game, I will play it, but I'd much rather choose to play with somebody else. Storm of Steel saying this, solo gaming is a great way to try out new rules or having mismatched scenarios. Yep. There's plenty of mechanisms you can use to keep solo games fresh. John says, I looked at Instagram for inspiration but came away with a feeling I was wasting my time. Do you know what, mate? Honestly, if there's anything I can kind of sort of like say from that kind of that me giving out free advice there, honestly, like, not comparing yourself to other people is a big one. Like, some people are just really good painters. Some people like are really good chefs and they make some amazing food and stuff like that. It doesn't mean I can't make myself a sandwich and still be fed, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like when I see people like painting these absolutely amazing sort of like miniatures, like one Space Marine, or these show like a painted face on one model, and I look at that and I think, you know what it is, you've done an amazing job. I'm sure you've spent lots of time on it. But is that as far as it gets? I see loads of people like painting this one Space Marine, and then I never see that Space Marine in a squad. I never see them in an army. I never see it on a tabletop. And it's like, well, that's your thing. That's what you do. You spend all your time painting miniatures just to have one miniature that looks really, really awesome. I'd rather spend that same amount of time to paint a full army of miniatures that I can then go and play a game with. That's where I get my enjoyment. So I think it's difficult to kind of to compare yourself to somebody when you're not only do you have different skill level, but you have completely different sort of end goals. Like the thing you're trying to achieve is completely different. If you decided you wanted to paint your miniature to the absolute highest standard you could, you'd be out there getting painting lessons. You'd be watching every painting video going. You'd be badgering people for tips. You'd be buying all the best paints and buying fancy brushes and trying to kind of create the atmosphere where you're just going to paint that amazing kind of miniature thing. But we don't all do that. I'm sure there's people watching this now who are really, really top, high-quality painters. But I bet you didn't just pick up a brush like last week kind of things. They'll have been doing it for years and years of consistent kind of painting and learning and spending time with other high-end painters who've shown them things. And it's just a constant thing. It's easy to feel sort of inadequate when you see some people's painting. But I just look at it and I think, you know what it is? They've done a fantastic job. I'm not trying to achieve the same thing. And if I was, then I would be inspired and encouraged by the fact that somebody's doing that kind of thing. Eon910 says, I've been drawn all my life and had to learn not to compare my art to others. When I started painting, it was easy not to compare. Yeah, I think it's like anything. And I think sometimes the better you get, the worse you can feel about that kind of stuff. Like, I don't worry about comparing myself to these kind of like golden demon winners, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But if I was trying to do that, and I was really pushing myself to be the best that I can, and I still couldn't achieve it, I think that's the point when I would start to kind of feel a bit downtrodden about it. So I think sometimes the better you are, the worse that can affect you sometimes. John says, I didn't come close to much of what I see. Nah, you don't have to though, mate. Like I said, it really depends upon what you're trying to achieve. You don't have to. Nick Two Jokes yelling, good evening, mate. How are you doing? Blizzard saying, I started posting my minis on Instagram because I saw many people not paint their minis because they were afraid of messing them up. I just wanted to help people get over that fear and procrastination. Yeah, I'm the same, mate. The videos that I show, the painting videos I do, the painting streams I used to do as well, they're all about really just showing that, like, not everybody's an expert. Not everybody on the internet, like, is suddenly at that kind of unattainable level. Some people are just painting for the enjoyment of painting, and some people are just painting to achieve an end goal of playing the games with painted miniatures. VJ says, whoop, first paint on a model in almost a month. Only unit numbers on my already completed Battletech Lancers, but it's better than nothing. Well done, mate. Ariel Sanchez, good evening, says, my biggest sin is comparing my paint jobs to other people, even though I'm married and one of my two sons have special needs. That's exactly what I was saying, mate. Like some people just pour their life and every spare waking minute into that kind of stuff, and then there are other people like yourself and like me who have other things going on as well, and that's the whole point. Is like, and I go back to what I said before about you don't need to be good at your hobby, you just need to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy your hobby, then find a one that you do. But yeah, I started painting miniatures, and I still paint miniatures now, just for that kind of relaxing, kind of switch my brain off, just sit and paint. It doesn't matter how it turns out. It's nice when it turns out nice, and I'm proud of it. But if it turns out awful, I've still had like a nice, peaceful, kind of mindful experience of just zoning out and just sitting painting and having some peace and quiet. That's what I get out of it. John says, I'm envious of you guys who have systems for solo play. I tried with various games over the years, but it ends up leaving me feeling stale. Yeah, I must admit, mate, I struggle with playing solo games. I think a lot of the time is I'm a bit like when I think I've mentioned this before when it comes to like sort of cooking and things as well, cooking food. I always feel like the effort I put in to making a meal it shouldn't take me longer to cook something than it takes me to eat it, kind of thing. That's because that's how I am with food. I can appreciate a really nice meal, and my wife's a brilliant cook, and she'll make some beautiful food that we'll sit and eat, and I will enjoy it. But for me personally, like when I lived on my own, I was quite happy with ready meals. I was quite happy for kind of like 5 minutes in the microwave while I was doing something else, kind of thing, because that's not where I got the enjoyment. And solo gaming is a bit like that for me. Like I need to put a lot of effort into kind of playing a solo game, where playing games for me is about that social interaction. I get as much enjoyment or more enjoyment from the banter across the table and the laughs and the kind of and the playing the game together than I do from playing the game itself, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm not knocking solo gaming, but it's just not. It doesn't really scratch my itch either. So it's like, good morning to you. So I came across my first mini I painted recently. I've put it on my painting desk. It's the only standard to which I compare myself. That's the way to go, mate. Vijay's saying you're going to bust out the photo booth for some glamour shots. Marcus says, I hope everyone on Discord enjoy my Santa logo Grimnot. I don't think I've seen it, mate. Excuse me while I have a drink. Dirk saying, nearly forgot to smash that like button. How dare you? 80 people in the chat at the moment and only 59 likes. I'm sure we can get more likes than we have viewers, because there's people coming, people gone. I'm sure we can squeeze some more likes out of that one. Thank you very much. Busey says, stop overthinking is in my top 5. Procrastination, mate, is the killer of so much hobby. I do it all the time. I think about, oh, that's not a very good video idea. Nobody will watch that. I don't want to make a bad video, so why bother making a video at all when it comes to that? Overthinking, mate, is the killer of kind of getting stuff done. Marcus is saying, not overthinking in general is just good advice. Absolutely, mate. Chris Warden, hello, mate. He says, that's why I'm buying everything, eh? That's why I'm buying everything. I don't know what we're talking about there. Paul Hemsel, good evening. He says, every community needs a first adopter. If you like the look of it, buy the starter set and offer it a demo to your friends. In a year, our gaming circle might be playing nothing else. Absolutely, mate. Every gaming group has those folks that are the ones that can encourage other people to play new games. It might not be you. Don't feel like that you're the one that has to kind of like lead everybody. But if you can convince the person who is that kind of that convincer, if you can say to them, hey, look, I've got this new game, I wouldn't mind giving it a try. Do you fancy it? And if you can get somebody else to play it and other people see you playing it and it looks like fun, you'd be surprised how many people kind of come along for the ride. Every game, every new game, every game that somebody is in, somebody somewhere had to get somebody else interested in playing 40k, for example. It didn't just become the biggest game overnight. There are other games out there, like Marvel, for example, is quite popular in my local area at the moment. And it didn't start out like that. Nobody was playing it 12 months ago. Like with the lockdown and stuff like that, it was just, it wasn't even on people's radars. Every game starts with those kind of early adopters. And all it takes is two people. Somebody who loves it enough to buy into it, and somebody who's willing to give it a try, and from there it can kind of grow. Rob's saying there, where I work, there are several gamers. They mostly play 40k, but I talk a lot about games I have. They're pretty interested in trying them, but our schedules clash. Yeah, it's that sooner or later bit, mate, isn't it? That one day that it does happen, you'll be glad that you did. Christian sharing the link there as well for the BlackJack Legacy merch. Thank you very much. Paul says, it's definitely my role in the group of friends. I own a bit of everything, but lots of nothing. There's a lot of people like that, mate. I think years ago in the gaming group I was in, I was kind of one of those people who was able to kind of always find somebody to go, like, oh, do you want to just give this game a go? That was kind of, I went to a games club where I didn't really know many people. It was mainly 40k, fantasy, bit of Flames of War, and managed to kind of introduce Malifaux and got like a big group of people playing. There was a mix of people loved the game and were really glad that I kind of introduced it, and there were some people who were quite bitter about the fact that people were playing something new, and it's like, this is a 40k club, what you doing coming here and stealing away players kind of thing. So yeah, there's a double-edged sword to those kind of things, but yeah, it's every group needs someone that could do that. Where are we up to here? Vijay says, you ready to paint something other than BattleTech now? Think they're finishing these Armada ships. It's nice to have something just to kind of mix it up, mate, isn't it? Just to kind of, paint something for a bit of a change. People chatting backwards and forwards. Nick saying there are a lot of gamers that display signs of adult ADHD. Must buy all the stuff and have everything to get 2 players going. Buy all the stuff, mate. I want to do something else now. I think I know what you mean, mate. It's not meant in an offensive way. I think some people just feel that there are people in our group. I see. I mean, I guess people will know, like people in their friends group and things like that, who are buying something new every other week. And they're not just buying like a miniature, like a couple of miniatures just to paint or something. They're buying a starter box for this game, and they're buying a starter box for that game, and they're buying a starter box and 10 expansions for this next game. And you never ever hear about them playing a game. They just always chopping and changing and buying the latest thing and buying something new. And I just hope they're not on the way to being bankrupt from doing that kind of stuff. I'll never tell anybody to stop. I'll never tell anybody to kind of like that, like not do something in that respect. But I would always encourage everybody to kind of to look at their hobby, and are you buying things that you're actually doing something with? Even if you just like reading the rule books or whatever it is, or you're just like building the models and you never get around to painting them, it's up to you as long as you're enjoying it. But there are a lot of people who are almost kind of like monkey see, monkey want kind of thing. Like new shiny, must have that. New shiny, must have that kind of thing. Peter says, I'm very happy I told work friends. Turned out there were 4 of us, and now we have a gaming group. That's exactly it, mate, isn't it? Yeah. Last Star Strider saying, life's too short for me to care anymore. Storm of Steel saying, I used to care about not telling people about my hobby. Now I don't care. Too old to care. There is an element of that. As you get that little bit older, you kind of care a little bit less about what people think. Where else? It's jumping around now a little bit. I'll need to dive in at some point. Yeah. I think I found out where it was. John saying, I'm way beyond caring what ignorant dweebs think about how I spend my free time. Exactly. Carrie, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Says, I've gone all in with Batman miniatures game. I've only ever played one game, still trying to build a regular Batman group. If you're enjoying it, then it's still the right thing to do. I was going to have a demo game of Batman miniatures game this weekend, actually. Unfortunately, my wife wasn't very well yesterday, so I had to cancel my gaming day that I had planned and stay at home and look after my little one. My wife wasn't particularly well. She was ill in bed yesterday. So, unfortunately, I never got to play it, but I do intend to give Batman a try at some point. Dirk says, as a German, it's hard to tell people you are not interested in soccer at all, so I'm always end up being the guy who talks about the weird stuff. It's a bit like that in the UK as well. Like if you're a man in the UK and you're not interested in football, like you almost have that like, well, what do we talk about? Like that's the common ground. Like when you're in an office, it's like, did you see the match at the weekend? Or especially in the northeast. In the northeast, football is like, it's almost like a religion around here. And if you're not really into football, there's definitely an element of like, well, what do you talk about? Like when you're in the pub, what do you talk about? When you're in the back of a taxi, what do you talk about? Like you get into any taxi in Newcastle, and the first thing the driver will say to you, do you see the match? Like that kind of stuff. It's weird. Jess, can you remember the IT crowd episode Dungeons and Dragons? Is that a sex thing? Quite the opposite, Jen. But even that, which was like a nerd, still poked fun at nerd culture. John saying, like, seriously, some people like lawn care. There you go, mate. Some people like my dad's a gardener. That's what he does. I'm not the slightest bit interested in what he does with these flowers, but like that's his nerd thing. That's what he does. Chris is saying, I wear my geekdom on my sleeve. Been into comic books for over 40 years. Just talking to a guy at work about them. He's hooking me up with a box worth. There you go, mate. It's worked out. Marcus is saying, I've always been a nerd. I like Star Wars, Star Trek, comics, old sci-fi, My Little Pony, anime, Pokemon, Warhammer. I embarrass my nerdness. Lawn nerds are no joking, man. David Warren is saying, as I get older, the less and less I care about what other people think. I now teach my kids to like what they like, and if someone doesn't like it, that's that person's problem. It's a really hard thing, especially like in this day and age now, because like when I was a kid, I just didn't have access to a wide enough group of people to find other people that enjoyed the kind of nerdy things I liked, but also people that were nasty enough to tell me how horrible my nerdy things were. Now there's a whole world out there for kids to interact with. So not only can they find people who are really into the same thing that they are, but they also find the extremes of society who are dead set against the things that they absolutely love as well. So you get these extremes of like sort of a fan base versus kind of anti-fan base kind of thing. I wouldn't want to be a kid growing up in this day and age, that's for sure. David Lever says, I had to tell my mate to stop watching channels that hate the hobby and put out TMZ level clickbait videos. Told him to focus on the things he enjoys instead of on people who hate it. Absolutely, mate. Honestly, like I did something similar kind of like over the last like sort of like 6 to 12 months, and I turned off all the news apps on my phone because all the news was doing was kind of Project Fear, kind of clickbait type mentality of like this is kind of like BBC News, Sky News. It became this kind of clickbait mentality of always telling you worst case scenarios, only telling you bad news, and it became depressing. It became a horrible thing to have to wake up to and look on my phone every day and see all this kind of just miserable news. And turning all that kind of stuff off is one of the best things I ever did. I don't go on Facebook groups where people are kind of like complaining about the hobby and where people are like negative. I tend not to read those posts. Like some of them I still do because I still like to know what's going on like in like within our hobby and within our industry. But I certainly never ever comment on them. I try not to get pulled into those kind of conversations. I tend to ignore them. I scroll past them. And I've managed to kind of cultivate like my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed, which are essentially pretty healthy places. I tend not to get surrounded by negativity, and it unfortunately it takes time and it takes effort. It's amazing how hard it is to avoid that kind of stuff. The Last Star Strider, hello. I was that guy complaining, but it was just me echoing the negative people ranting about GW. I stopped when they asked me if I hated it. I don't hate. I stopped listening to negative people. It's really hard. I mean, I think sometimes when you love something and you hear somebody being negative about it, you want to defend it. Like if somebody was saying something bad about your family or something like that, you'd want to defend them, wouldn't you? It's the easiest thing to react to it. It's really hard to just take yourself away from it and completely ignore it. It shouldn't be hard, but it is. That's the hardest part, is to not get involved. But unfortunately, that's the bit that takes practice. That not reacting, that seeing somebody's comment and going, look, I need to not get involved in that. That's quite hard to do. Tony says lawn needs survive the zombie apocalypse. They creep up and mow the verges. Cass says hobbies are important for our heads. So many of us work jobs to survive. Hobbies are self-expression. Support fellow hobbyists at the risk of sound too serious. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, Kath. The reason people have hobbies is to have something in their life that they really enjoy and they're passionate about. And that's my point about you don't need to be good at it. You just need to enjoy it. Like, you'll get good at stuff just by doing it on a more regular basis. But absolutely, you like surround yourself with positive people who enjoy the thing that you enjoy. I don't think there's anything unhealthy about surrounding yourself like in a bit of an echo chamber of your hobby stuff. You're not looking for like sort of what's the word I'm looking for? You're not looking for affirmation. Like you're not looking to be kind of looking at opposite political views when it comes to your hobby. You just want to enjoy what you enjoy, and there's nothing wrong with surrounding yourself with people who enjoy the same thing when it comes to like the thing that you do for fun. George says, I moaned about the price of GW minis until I decided to move on to other games. I think a lot of people moan about GW because it's the thing to do. Like at the end of the day, nobody like sort of takes the bank card out of your wallet and or purse and buys miniatures and then puts them like sort of on your table and says, there, you've bought more again this month, haven't you? Like, people who complain about the price of stuff seriously kind of need to just walk away and not worry about it, because there'll come a point where things will become so expensive that people will stop buying it. And that's the point when these companies have reached the kind of the elasticity of what people are willing to spend. But it's not there now. And just because somebody has more disposable income to spend than somebody else doesn't make one of them right and one of them wrong. You can decide it's not worth it to you. It's not good value to you personally, but it doesn't mean it's too expensive for everybody else. In the same way, you can buy a car for like about £8,000 or £9,000, or you can buy a Ferrari for like £300,000. A Ferrari, like, is it good value? Absolutely not. Would everybody like one? Or would a lot of people like one? Yeah. Are there people that can afford it? Absolutely. It's the reason there are cars that are £1 million. It's the reason that people buy super yachts. It's the reason people buy private jets, because some people just have more money than others. And not everything is created for everybody. I think there's a feeling in our hobby that it's designed as a hobby for like kind of for everyone. It's a hobby that everybody can afford, no matter how little money you have, whatever it is. And I think at the end of the day, it's the same as any other hobby. Photography is expensive. You can buy a cheap second-hand camera, but if you want to buy something kind of fancy, you're going to pay money for it. Golf, you can go along the driving range kind of thing, and you can do a little bit of pitch and putt or something like that, or you can go and spend thousands of pounds on golf clubs. I think every hobby's the same. But it just seems, I don't know why people seem to love to moan about the price of miniatures and stuff. Of course they're not. Of course they're not value in physical terms of this little piece of plastic is worth this amount of money. But are they worth it to me for the enjoyment that I get from building minis and painting minis and talking about them and playing the games? That's the point where I judge where the value is for me personally. Tony says, I'm on the BlackJack Legacy Facebook group on the Discord and the Discord for my friendly local gaming store. I'd try not to be isolated, as otherwise it would just be me. Absolutely, mate. And I think there are many, many ways of not becoming isolated. I just think that for me personally, the isolation has been kind of just staying indoors. I've never been someone that just kind of stayed indoors and locked myself away kind of thing. The last couple of years with this whole lockdown stuff, it's been a lot harder on me than I think I originally thought, and probably more than I probably want to admit, if I'm perfectly honest. David saying, I miss having a game shop to go and play 40k D&D board games. I moved around 2 years ago, and the scene for those is weak out here. Would have to drive 2 hours to get to my old one. That does make it tough, mate. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it and stuff, but sometimes you got to make the effort. Sometimes, can you arrange to meet some of those people halfway and make it an hour's drive or something like that? Have you tried getting some kind of stuff up in your local area? It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes you kind of... We can all kind of look at the negatives and see how things used to be, or we can spend time trying to do something about it. And I think everybody's efforts are way better spent trying to fix a problem than kind of worrying about the problem in the first place. Iwanga Kevin says that the hobby is great for mental health. What are some ways to meet more people besides gaming stores? It's quite tough, mate. I mean, I think one place is certainly getting involved in tournaments. Like there's plenty of like sort of events and stuff like that. When I say tournaments, it's not like sort of like a fight to the death like sort of stuff. Gaming events and tournaments for what we do tend to have a real mix of abilities and people. And just because you're going to an event or a tournament or a competition doesn't mean everybody's out there to kind of kill each other kind of thing. Some people just, like me, some people just go to these for to have a couple of beers and to play games with other people. And it's a good way, not only is it a good way to get like 5 games in a day, it's also a good way to get to know the like local communities. It's a good way to meet other people who play the games that you play. And it's a good way to kind of to meet up with folks who you can then build up a bit of a gaming scene with. So yeah, I mean, there might be tournaments, maybe like an hour or two's drive away from you, something like that. You might be thinking, oh, it's a bit of an effort. Do I really, really want to do that? sometimes it's the best way to kind of to introduce yourself to a social circle of people who are also playing the game that you enjoy. It's a great way to meet people who are playing a game that might not be that popular locally, because all of a sudden you sort of like, you might meet one other person who's also traveled 2 hours from your local area to that same event, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't realize there was people around here played, and all of a sudden there's 2 of you playing, and then the next thing you know, you've both convinced somebody else, and that's how you set up these little gaming groups. Nick saying, I'm the best mini painter on my house. That's good enough for me. I'm not even sure if I'm the best one in my house, mate, to be fair. My wife's not tried yet. She might be a bit of a secret artist. I'm the best one in my head. So there you go. I'm the only one. My eyesight's getting worse as I get older. I'm not as steady with my hands as I was when I was younger. My painting is good enough. Do you know that at the end of the day, like I'll never be putting mine in painting competitions. So then, why am I worried about kind of the finished effect? Mark says, since being a member of your channel, my confidence has got much better. I go to a hobby shop and play games every Sunday. I'm really glad, mate. That's all it's about, mate. Honestly, if I can sort of inspire somebody to have a bit of confidence in their own ability to go and say hello to one other person and play a game kind of thing, then, great. Christian just sharing the link there as well for Goblin Gaming. If anybody's buying any last minute kind of Christmas gifts and maybe your local shop doesn't have them in stock and you're looking on Goblin Gaming, please do consider clicking on through the affiliate link. Christopher saying there, he says, psst, you don't have to paint. You don't have to paint, mate. Don't let anybody tell you have to paint. A painted mini always looks nicer on the tabletop than a grey plastic one, but you know what? They don't perform any different. You don't have to paint them. You're absolutely right, mate. Tiberius is saying, on hobby supplies like tools, brushes, materials, I think it's helpful to make a distinction between buying the best of stuff to be better as opposed to buying it to make it easier. I think it's kind of it's a mix, mate, really, of like, sometimes you can buy better stuff which will actually improve your stuff. Like I remember buying better brushes and it improved my painting, but I don't think it improved them because I bought better brushes. I think it improved because I hadn't realised that my old brushes were so knacked that new brushes made the difference. At the time, I thought it was because I bought better brushes. It wasn't really. It was just because they were new brushes. And I've learned over time now that actually I can buy cheap brushes and still achieve the same kind of like sort of painting levels. So there is an element of like all the gear, no idea and stuff. But you're right. Some things might be more expensive. Like I've paid a little bit more money for a decent painting light in my hobby room. I've always just bought cheap little kind of lights and stuff like that. And I've kind of struggled with them, really, if I'm honest. As I'm getting a bit older, my eyesight's not as great as it was. I kind of struggle to focus a little bit. So I've bought a better light. And you know what? I wish I'd bought one years ago. I spent a bit more money on it, but it's absolutely worth it. And I think my painting has actually improved purely for the fact that I'm painting in decent light again, kind of thing. So there are little things like that. Andrew Fairbanks says, what are the 5? I joined late. You'll have to catch up, mate. I don't want to go over the whole list again now, but I'll be doing a catch-up video, like a shortened version, coming out later this week. John says, I really do this for my own enjoyment and as a refuge against the insanity of the world and life. But if somebody likes what I've done and is inspired, it's ice on the cake. Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. John says, I eat quick. If I applied that rule to my cooking, I'd live on beans on toast. To be honest with you, I'm probably not far off that. When I lived on my own for a while, honestly, it sounds like I've got some kind of weird kind of relationship with food. It's not the case. I just don't get enjoyment from cooking. I know some people do, and they love to kind of cook a nice meal, and they can spend all day kind of making sort of fancy sort of cordon bleu food. For me personally, it's kind of a means to an end. I enjoy tasting nice food, but I don't get the enjoyment from the cooking thing. So whilst if my wife enjoys it, I'm more than happy to eat some beautiful meals that she makes. For me, like if she's out, like if she goes away for the weekend and I'm on my own, I'm ringing a pizza, or I'm kind of, I'm happy with a pot noodle or a microwave meal or something. David says the only solo game I've played is Kingdom Death Monster. It doesn't come anywhere near having people to band and share the experience with. Doug saying the hardest thing is not comparing myself to myself because I've only started painting again after 10 years. I can imagine that mate. Actually, like, I've looked at some of my old Malifaux minis when I was painting regularly, when my twins, my oldest lads, like they're 19 now, but when they were really young, when I first started painting, I had a lot of spare time on my hands. I wasn't working away from home. I was at home a lot while the kids were kind of like sort of napping and sleeping when they were babies, and I really kind of threw myself into like sort of painting minis. There was none of this YouTube stuff. I didn't do any of that malarkey. I only played one game. And I used to really kind of take my time and sort of paint minis. And I look back at some of those now and think, you know what is that? I was a decent painter. I used to paint some nice stuff. These days it's completely different. So I get what you mean in that stuff. Scott says, I love paint on toast. Yeah, me as well, mate. The last thought I says, me with all my vids. Kath says, my Andy and Sarah had a daddy-daughter day playing Five Nights at Freddy's at the Sanctuary Cafe in Sutton. Oh, that's awesome. Me and my little boy have been spending a lot more time together playing stuff together. Like, he likes board games and stuff, but he's also getting into kind of PlayStation stuff recently, and he absolutely loves Cuphead, the PlayStation game. And I'm finding it's so nice just to sit together and like play it, like take turns and stuff, and I'll play 2 players together and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't always have to be hobby stuff, but like I think he's not really interested. He doesn't have the attention span to be playing miniatures games at the minute. But I know he's interested. Like, he loves rolling dice. He loves like looking at the minis and stuff. And we'll play like the odd like random thing. But I think within a couple of years, I think he'll be playing as well. He's only 5 at the minute, so he's not exactly kind of like overly ready for it. John says, most Fridays I come home from our Gaslands games with a sore stomach and a face from smiling and laughing. A good feeling. That is a good feeling. Storm of Steel says he's ducking out now. Good night. Thank you very much, buddy. I know I'm well behind on the chat. It's been a chatty one tonight. My throat's really dry. I'm trying my best to catch up, folks. Sunday says he's taking interpretation from your decorating style, Andy. Treated myself to the Mandalorian and Boba Fett helmets. Put them on display next to my hobby space. It's nice just to have some kind of like little knickknacks and things about you. My hobby room upstairs in the house, kind of like where I paint on an evening when I'm like when I'm painting just for me, not work stuff. I've got my Rams helmet there. My wife bought me like an official American football for my birthday, so I 3D printed a little stand for it. So I've got my little kind of like my NFL corner type thing. I printed off some pictures, and I've put like frames up on the wall and stuff. And my little boy's been drawing a picture for me, a Cuphead picture. So I've put that next to my painting area and things. It's nice just to have like little bits of decoration around here, little kind of like knick-knack stuff. Because saying when you're responding to Andy, it's been so long, the comment doesn't make sense. I apologise for that. Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up now. In fact, I'll skip ahead a little bit, so I apologise if I've missed anything. I'll see if there's anything being highlighted anywhere. Just as saying football in the Northeast is more than a religion. You're not wrong, mate, yeah. Let me scroll ahead a little bit here. Trevor Chadwick, hello. That's just a new name, so I thought I'd say hello. He says, have Kings of War miniatures got better? They were very board game quality when I bought a box of dwarfs. The dwarfs were if not the first, mate, I think the undead were the first ones they ever made about 10, 11 years ago, and the dwarfs were quite close behind that with the elves as well. So yeah, the dwarfs weren't the best. The new stuff, things like the new salamanders, the new halflings, the new rift-forged orcs, they're fantastic, mate. They've come a long way. Definitely worth checking out some of the new stuff if you are interested. Trevor saying a cool. I love a lot of the Walking Dead minis, but the Hayes Negan minis were kind of bad. The Hayes Negan minis were board game minis. They were designed just to be in a board game, to be fair. George says your positivity is contagious. I'm glad, mate. That's what I'm trying to do. John says, I'm having fish and chips in your honour. Nice one. Luke Pryor, hello to you, mate. Christian's off to bed. Take care, matey. Thanks for coming in. It's a pile of potential, says Chris. Exactly, mate. Andrew Fairbanks says, my solution to army jumping is just to buy all of them. I think that's a lot of people's solution, mate. Last Star Strider says, going to a tournament was the best thing I did. I've made friends and I know people that are hosting an event now. It's a great way to do it. I know a lot of people are not overly keen on going to events. They're not keen on some kind of competitive gamers. I think unless you're playing things like sort of even 40k, I can't really say bad things about 40k events because I've never been to one. But you always hear about the negative stuff online. Of course you do, like anything. And because 40k is a bigger game and there's more events, you're going to hear about more negative stuff. But when I talk about the events I've been to for the games that I play, I've been to Walking Dead events, I've been to Kings of War events, I've been to Vanguard events, I've been to Armada events, I've been to Marvel events, I've been to Malifaux events, War Machine events. And I can only say I've only ever had good experiences. And I have met people at those events that I have then gone on to be friends with and kind of sort of have sort of like good gaming relationships with, like, if you like. So I can only speak highly of them. Maybe I've been lucky. Maybe it's like I say, social media. You hear about negative stuff online. Sometimes it's worth putting yourself out there. And even if you have a bad experience, kind of just put it down to experience. Just kind of chalk it up as something not to do again and try somewhere else. Go to a different event organised by somebody different. Like, it's, it might be more to do with the person organising it than it is about the game system and the folks. Paul says, in the UK, search for local gaming club. I ran a club on a small market town in Lincolnshire for years. People often came saying they'd played for years and never knew a thing. I think that happens a lot, mate, doesn't it? Rob saying, yeah, because of BlackJack Legacy, I'm more open about the hobby and I've improved my painting. Not great, but happy with what I do. If you're happy, then it's great, mate. That's all you got to think about. Robman KCW, good evening, says, I don't play miniature games, but your painting tips have helped me with my model kits, and for that I just wanted to say thanks. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be of some kind of help. Marcus says, I find cooking relaxing, and if it tastes good, it's a double win. Exactly, mate. That's what I mean. Everybody likes something different. John says, I did cooking for a job and see it most days. It's just a necessary evil. Yeah, it's never been my thing. Deep Red said, a chap went to the trouble to post a pic of a mini that was painted better than anything I could do on Facebook, only for some a-hole to comment C+. There really is no need to be a tool. Do you know what it is? Some people just get off on it, and I think there's an element of, if you put yourself online for whatever it is, like I get it, like I understand. I'm putting myself out there. There's going to be people don't like me. I'm fine with it. Like I don't like everybody I've ever met, so I'm not everybody's going to like me, kind of thing. If you put yourself out there, you're sometimes going to come across people who are not very nice or don't like what you do, kind of thing. So you do have to kind of prepare yourself for it. But I do wish those people would just kind of keep their gob shut. Like, at the end of the day, who is it helping? It's not helping the person that painted the picture. It's not helping the people that read the comments. It's not helping the person sort of posting the comment. I never really understand. Deep Red saying there, I guess some people just like to knock others to feel a bit superior. It just makes them like dicks, so doesn't it? Where are we up to here? John said, I do most of the cooking in my family simply because I'm far more efficient at it. Yeah, it's kind of like my wife does the cooking because she enjoys it and I don't, and then I do jobs that she doesn't enjoy doing. So Tony said, I enjoy cooking and taking time and effort. I bang on some tunes and turn it to a roller disco in the kitchen, but I have to be in the right mood for it. Yeah, and I admire people who enjoy that as a hobby in the same way I admire people who are really good painters because they enjoy what they do, and I couldn't do it. So, Lemur Crazy says, Northern Exile has a great channel, both good and bad stories about working for GW. I've been listening to some of that lately, mate, just kind of background stuff, and I've got kind of mixed feelings about it, if I'm perfectly honest. That some of what he says I kind of agree with, and then some of what he says I think not so much. I don't know who the guy is, kind of thing. I just don't agree with everything he says. That's all. John says, places that didn't allow music in the kitchen, I never stayed more than a couple of weeks. It's weird that you couldn't work in a kitchen environment, I think, without any kind of music. The last Star Strider says, the event I went to was for Kill Team. Now they're hosting an official big event, Kill Team Open. Nice one, mate. Oh, I also went to a Warcry event as well at Warhammer World, and I had a great day there as well. Vijay saying Northern Exile comes across very negative. There's some of the stuff I can kind of like. I can listen to it at times, but then there's other points where I kind of turn it off, and I just think it feels a bit angry, ranty now sometimes. Anyway, I caught up with a chat. So let me have a drink. So we did all right. I managed to catch up after all that. There was a lot of chat tonight. Thank you very much, folks. It's always good to have... he's no arch. He's definitely not an arch. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's always nice to have plenty of chat. It always helps me out as well. John says, got to take my daughter to volleyball practice. See you. Thanks for the stream and the chat. Thank you very much, John. Yeah, it's funny. Like I was saying before when I didn't do last week's, it was purely just down to the fact that I just kind of... I wouldn't say ran out of energy, but I definitely ran out of ideas. Like, it was weird. And a lot of Mondays get a bit like that. It's nice to have a topic like this has kept the chat going. We've had some decent numbers in tonight. The kind of like there's a graph basically on the screen next to me, and it shows kind of like how many people in the chat. And from about, let me just see. Oh, if I move the correct mouse. So from what's that time there? About 9:15, so just after we started, 15 minutes in, we hit about 70. Well, actually, there's a line there which says 75. So we hit about 75 people about 9:15, and it never dipped below 75 until about 10:25, and I think it kind of maxed out at about 90. I think it was 90, 91. So there's been decent numbers in tonight. It's been like a good chat, and that's what I like. I like. It's not that I like good numbers kind of thing. Of course I do. It's my job. It's good. I'm not here streaming to myself kind of thing. But the more people there are, the chattier it normally is, and the easier it makes it for me. It's because as people are making comments, I've got something to react to, something to respond to, something. If I ask a question, there's more people to answer it. It just really helps. And some weeks, if I feel I haven't got like a good topic, it's really, really kind of hard. And especially this time of year, like I say, like there's no real news. Like GW's got no new releases coming out this week. Mantic's not released anything for a little while. There's nothing like Marvel. There's nothing coming out for Marvel until February here in the UK. So there's nothing really new to talk about from that regard. It's quite tough at the minute when it comes to kind of like news type stuff. So unless I can kind of come up with some juicy topics, these Monday streams can sometimes become a little bit kind of like, oh, what am I going to talk about kind of thing. So luckily I managed to come up with something for tonight. Next week I'll probably chat about, we'll have our Christmas episode next week. So next week we'll have a bit of a Christmas party vibe about it. We'll have a good chat and we'll have a good laugh and stuff like that. And then the one between Christmas and New Year, I'll probably do a bit of like a year in review type thing. Like, let's like look back on the year. What games have I played? What have we been talking about? Do I still feel the same way now that I sort of felt like this time last year about games and stuff? Like, has anything came out of the scene that I'm playing now that I wasn't? Have I stopped playing anything? So kind of the next couple of weeks is okay. But yeah, last week was a tough one. I really kind of just had this mental blockage of like, I have no idea what to talk about. Let's have a little look here. VG saying apologies for the lack of chat. Never apologise, mate. It's fine. He's been doing his chores. Tiberius is saying his experience with GW was actually good. Nowhere near the worst place you can work, and a lot better than jobs of my friends who have for some less money at a time. I think what tends to get confusing for people is they confuse GW hobby and working for a company, because any company I've worked for is a business, and they do things to make money, and like I used to work in a sports shop when I was at college, and you know, I was big into my sport then as well and stuff. So it was nice to kind of to sell all the latest trainers and kind of like to see all the new football kits when they come in and get the football kits before anybody else got them and all that kind of stuff. But the company still wanted to make money, and I was still encouraged to upsell. And if somebody wants to buy a tennis racket, get them to buy a better tennis racket. And if somebody wants to buy the shoes, try and sell them the kind of the insoles, or try to sell them the fresheners and all that kind of stuff. Every company's like that. So I think if you work for Games Workshop, you're going to be encouraged to upsell to people, to get them to buy brushes, to get them to buy paint, to get them to buy glue, to try and not spend time with the people that just come and hang around in the shop and don't spend any money. Spend your time with the mums and dads who come in looking to spend money, kind of thing. So of course you are, but I think people get confused with the fact is like, oh well, you know, Games Workshop should be this kind of like hobby charity type thing where they open the shops up and let people come in and play games, and you don't even have to buy your stuff there, and like you don't need to spend any money, kind of thing. I think there's a weird mix of that kind of stuff. Mini Warmut, hello mate. He says, good live feed. I listen while building my Wild West buildings. Good stuff. Nice one, mate. Sunday Psych after work, he says, your positivity and joy is what this hobby needs for more people. Thank you very much, mate. I do like to, I'm a positive person in general. I always see I'm not like kind of like sort of walking around all like roses and smiles every day. You know, I have my bad days as well. But when it comes to my hobby stuff, I'm not going to spend any time on stuff that makes me miserable. So there you go. Lemuel Crazy says, you inspired me to dig out my Final Fantasy books over the weekend and got through Warlock after mapping and 3 attempts. Fighting Fantasy, he says, sorry. Thank you very much, mate. Star Strider says, I love what you do. Thank you. Need a Final Fantasy tabletop, yeah. Bliss says, a New Year's painting challenge. I think we're going to do something in the new year, mate. I've not really found anything that I've been kind of inspired to kind of set off, but I think we will do something in the new year. Ed saying, not sure it's widely known, but the first Fighting Fantasy books were written by the guys who started GW. Yes, they were, mate. A lot of them were written by Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson. And I think they've written some of the newer ones as well, to be fair. Yeah. So, folks, I think this is probably as good a time as any to kind of to wrap it up. So, thank you very much for your very, very kind appreciation tonight. Tybus is saying the other thing on GW upselling is that if you send a kid off without the very least glue or clippers, then they're not going to have a good experience, and likely that kid won't come back. Yeah, I think there's some elements of that. Like you do need the equipment to do stuff. There's no point selling somebody their first model kit and then not selling them any glue to go with it. And Tom Watts says, yet again, another awesome stream. Thank you very much. There's going to be no Wednesday night hobby hangouts for a while. I was chatting to the Patreons about this. One of the reasons is that the numbers that they get isn't great. It was never about the numbers, but the knock-on effect is that they've actually been really hurting the channel. When I've looked at the numbers and stuff like that in the background and done a bit of work, it's actually been kind of killing the channel. Essentially, to kind of put it in really simple terms, is if a Monday night stream does really well and people start watching it, YouTube starts pushing it out to more people to watch. That's how the channel grows. That's how I get more subscribers. That's how videos get lots of views. I then do a Wednesday stream, which obviously don't get many views because they're not intended. They're not like kind of big punchy titles. They're kind of stuff to put on in the background. The numbers don't do so well. YouTube's algorithm gets triggered and says, oh, people don't like his new stuff that he's doing. So they stop sharing the old stuff. And then the next week, a Monday video will come through and it'll start again. And then the Wednesday one will kill it off. And when I've gone back and looked through the data, unfortunately, that's exactly what's happening. So it's really stemmed my growth over the last 6 to 12 months, and it's also stemmed things like subscriber numbers and views and everything. So because I missed a couple of Wednesdays recently through a couple of reasons, I've seen the opposite effect, is that basically it's kind of climbing and it's taken off. My subscriber numbers up, my views are up, and I think from understanding the data, that's the reason. So I'm looking at a way to bring back the hobby streams, the Wednesday streams, in a different way next year. I'm potentially looking at making them like a Patreon thing, because generally there's only really Patreons come in and watch them anyway. So I'm looking into that. But just so you know, there's going to be no more Wednesday hobby night streams, certainly for the rest of this year. Monday night streams will stay as they are. I've got another video in the balance which is coming out later on this week as well, which is kind of a bit of a transport solution for carrying your minis about, a nice kind of cheap transport solution. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But if you don't watch any of that stuff, please check out my other videos, and I will see you next Monday on the Christmas edition of Monday Night Livestream. Thank you very much, folks. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.